So Tim Ferriss, who is a author and productivity guru, has this exercise that he calls fear setting. I think this is really important for people who are facing criminal charges. What he does is he meditates on this idea of what is your worst nightmare? What's the worst thing that can happen in this situation? How bad can it get? Now, for a lot of people, this is going to be a very difficult experience for you because if you're charged with a misdemeanor in Massachusetts, most but not all misdemeanors are punishable by up to 2.5 years in the House of Correction. So when folks are going through this fear setting, the fear is, okay, the very worst thing that could happen if I'm convicted is I do, say, 2.5 years in the House of Correction and I have a misdemeanor or a felony on my record. That's the very worst thing that could happen. And internally, now you have externalized your internal fear. You've talked to your lawyer about this, or you've just cogitated about this out loud, and it sounds really bad. But this is important because then you've got to come back and say, okay, is this going to actually happen? So we'll take an OUI, for example, a drunk driving charge, because everybody knows what they are and they're easy to talk about. If you're convicted of an OUI charge in Massachusetts, the maximum penalty on the first offense is 2.5 years in the House of Correction. Now, generally speaking, and I've done a lot of these, the vast majority of first-time offenders don't go to jail. In fact, the vast majority of them either get a not guilty or do a 24D quaff program. Okay, in either of those cases, no one's going to jail. So when you think about it, after you've been arrested, I understand things are crazy. You think you're going to go to jail. But then when you actually go through this fear-setting exercise and then work backwards about what's actually going to happen or what was likely going to happen, that fear and that all that anxiety gets contained. And you just don't want to live in this world of fear because it just fear begets fear and things just snowball and get much worse. So this fear setting exercise for people who have been charged with criminal offenses is really important. And it's important to go through this with your lawyer to help hem in that fear and mitigate the risk and talk this stuff through. So that's how fear setting works if you're a criminal defendant. I'm attorney Nady Amendola, 781-740-0800.